Well, hello there, and this is me smoking a £25 cigar, which is not expensive for cigars. The supplier that I go to sells cigars for £200 a puff. So the recent temperatures of 100 degrees Fahrenheit in my attic study. Basically, I thought it completely destroyed all the cigars in my humidor, and I smoked one and it was just terrible. And so I thought I'd try this one, and it seems to be okay. But not being someone who generally smokes expensive cigars, I really can't tell. I really can't tell whether it's a good cigar or not, but it seems okay. It's very mellow and nice. So if you excuse me, just take a puff. Excuse me. So, you only get one bite of the cherry. This is a very good friend said to me once, and it kind of brings to the fore the fact that I'm a little bit of a dilettante, that there are different things that I enjoy doing, and I've never really been terrifically successful in anything that I've done. And that includes philosophy. As you can see, that's my smoke alarm. I'm going to put on my fan, and hopefully it's not going to create too much of a... It does. It's too bad. If you have a look at my YouTube videos, I've got a couple of photography slideshows. One of them shows, one's been quite successful, a very famous folk club in London called Les Cousins, or Cousins, as most guitarists used to refer to it at. Some of the greatest guitarists played there: Davy Graham, Paul Simon, Bob Dylan was there once, Martin Carthy, every name you can think of, Al Stewart, they were all there. And I used to take my Pentax Spotmatic camera, and I had some nice pictures of that, so that was a video I did, accompanied by 3 of my supposedly original instrumentals, which was very strongly influenced by Davy Graham. And recently I sort of thought of reviving my guitar singing composition. So I've got a few of those on YouTube. And I've got loads of, nearly 1,000 photographs on Flickr. I've got a photography website, cameradreamer.net. It's a way I could go. I could say, well, look, I've done as much philosophy as I could possibly do. I've left with a question that I can't answer. And not only can't I answer this question, why is there anything at all, and why am I here to experience it? I can say immediately that people who call themselves philosophers are not philosophers if they don't at least address that question. And they don't. Academic philosophers basically are logicians, and they explore the deep logic of our concepts in a kind of an interesting way, but they simply bulk the really important questions, and their excuse would be, well, what's the point? no one's going to answer them, let's just choose something we can answer. And my response to that is, what a waste of time. You're just academics, pursuing some narrow academic interest. You're not asking the big questions. So I call myself a philosophizer just to distinguish myself from them, but of course they're the ones who aren't really philosophers. I am a philosopher. But what is the point of being a philosopher if you've got nothing to say? So I thought, okay, so I could do photography, or I could sing and write, do compositions. I know how to write a song. The ones I've done so far are decent, they're not great. I think Song with the Wolf is probably the best one I've done. So I could go that way. I could just devote myself to doing that. Then there's the other thing that I always wanted to do, which was write a book as successful as Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And I've spent a lot of time asking myself what made that book so great, and of course you can't repeat it, you can't do something similar. But there are some remarkable things about that book. One is that it was a highly successful novel. I'll call it a novel even though it claims to be based on fact, which doesn't have any sex in it whatsoever, not even a remote suggestion of sex, apart from a description of the author's very unhappy marriage, which ended in him having a nervous breakdown. But there is a love interest in the sense it's a father-son thing, and the son's having problems. He's travelling across America on his Honda 350cc Honda motorbike. You can still buy that particular brand of motorbike, actually. I almost was considering getting one. A good second-hand example imported from the States might be about £4,000, something like that. Obviously you can't do that. And to this day I've still been looking for a theme, a plot, something to hang philosophy on in an interesting way. McGraw-Hill have bought 4 of my short science fiction stories, which will be appearing in the new edition of Doing Philosophy by Vaughan and I can't remember his name now. Anyway, that's coming out at the end of this year. So that's that's a minor success. A big publisher, big American publisher, likes my science fiction stories. I have a book of science fiction stories, A Better Ray Gun and Other Tales. Hasn't been doing very well on Amazon. And I have to say, the stories are good, but they're not up to the standard of, say, Philip K. Dick. And I kind of don't want to be a science fiction writer who will forever be trying to get as good as Philip K. Dick and never succeeding. What's the point? He's the guy. He is the absolute guy to emulate if you're a philosopher. And anything less than that is just not worth it. So now it's gone out. So you only get one bite of the cherry. What do I do? Why should I care anyway? This is the thing, when I think about the ultimate question, anything that I want to do seems just like vanity. Okay, so you get some people to like you, so you get some people to give you money for your stuff. Well, that's some kind of achievement which billions of human beings on this earth have managed to do. They managed to get, they work, they get paid for their work. They make some kind of contribution to the human race. The life of pleasure. I have few pleasures in this life. Smoking is one of them, but it's a very double-edged thing. You're always worried about, well, the harm it can do, especially if you're a kidney patient, as I am. It isn't the best thing to be doing, smoking and drinking. As I said, it's pleasure. I'm going to let this go out and turn the fan off because it's probably creating a very annoying noise. There we go. I need to do something because existing, for me, existing without actually being productive is very soul-destroying. And I'm not sure whether this, anyone's going to want to watch this video anyway. I did an answer on Ask a Philosopher most recently, where I probably came closer to quote-unquote Jeffrey Klepner's philosophy than I've done before. And it's very interesting because I was asked a question. Someone asked the question, they heard an argument that went like this. Instead of looking at the fear of death as something very negative, look at it as the fact that you love life. And are there any other examples of reverse thinking that would be illuminating? Reverse thinking, right? Instead of fearing death, you love life. The two sides of the same coin. That's true. But of course it doesn't get rid of the fear of death, because if you love life and you know that life is going to be taken away from you, that's a very negative thing. That's something to be upset about. The fact that something you love is going to be taken away from you. If it's the person you love and they die, obviously you're very upset. So of course you're going to be upset about the loss of your own life. So is there an example of reverse thinking that doesn't have that negative aspect? And I said, yes, there is an example. And it's a thought that came to me back in 1980 or so, when I was in college. That was University College, Oxford. And I had just had a couple of bottles of, I think it was called Wadsworth 4X, which is a wonderful ale coming from Cornwall, which is the southwest of England. And this beer is, it has a little bit of sediment in the bottom of the bottle, just to show that it's, a genuine, real ale, very delicious tasting. And I was sitting outside thinking, well, nothing has any meaning. There's no God. There's nothing to give meaning or purpose to the universe. And the existentialist response is, well, you just create your own meaning. You make decisions. You give value to things. And that's how meaning comes into the world. And Nietzsche battled with this question of nihilism, as he called it, nihilism. The only response to nihilism is that we are a bridge between apes and the Superman, the Ubermensch, or the Overman. And the Overman is the value creator. And the possibility of the Overman is the only thing that brings value into the universe, because we are the means by which the Overman will ultimately come into existence. And commentators have asked themselves, well, were there examples of overmen that Nietzsche believed in? Napoleon is one example, Beethoven, great artists, great musicians, composers, etc. But I reckon that Nietzsche never thought that there was any human being who'd ever existed who was an overman. I think that he never ever commits himself to saying that so-and-so is an overman. Because human beings aren't capable of that. All we are a bridge. There's as much distance between an ape and a man as there is between a man and an overman. We're apes, which is what I said in my philosophizer books. We're just apes. We're good at imitating. We give ourselves airs and we imagine that we're so great, but we're not really. The only justification for being a human being is that we are a means to an end, a higher end. Well, that's all very well, but I can't, at the end of the day, that existentialist response is again very negative. And my thought, sitting outside the beer cellar at the University College Oxford, was, well, if nothing has any meaning, then that claim itself is meaningless. And that there's another way of looking at the universe, which says everything has meaning. That was my reverse thinking, you see. Everything has meaning. This cigar has meaning. This desk, the trees outside, everything. It's just an attitude of mind, a mental attitude. And when you get into that mental attitude of seeing that everything has meaning, that is the answer. We don't have to give meaning to anything. The very claim that the universe is barren and empty of meaning is itself meaningless. Okay, that's Geoffrey Klempner's philosophy. Well, is that... the problem is, so what? I mean, if you're saying, well, everything has meaning, so you don't need to bother asking the question, I can't accept that, because there's still a question there. There's still the unanswerable question. And I also said in a video that the thing about this is it's not about knowledge. It's not about saying we don't know what the ultimate reason is for everything. Because whatever reason you gave, however interesting, however deep, however long, a book length, or maybe a library or whatever. Imagine the biggest, collection of books, that there could be, in detail describing why there's a universe. It wouldn't be enough, because the answer would be, is that it? Is that all there is? So you're asking a question which couldn't have an answer. Nothing would count as an answer. If you see that, if you see that, you realize you're pursuing a chimera. You're not getting anywhere by looking for an answer to that. And you've got to smile, when you realize you can do anything, but whatever you do is pointless. You can ask any question, but you can't answer it. You can't answer the ultimate question. You can amuse yourself by asking questions, by doing logic. This is what academic philosophers do. But that doesn't satisfy me. So I could just, the best thing I could do is somehow forget. Practice forgetting. Get into something else. And so we're back to, what am I going to do? Am I going to write songs? Am I going to take photographs? Maybe write a novel, write a science fiction novel. Millions of people find themselves in this predicament. There's nothing special or unique about it. I mean, the only thing I would say on my side, in my defense, so to speak, is that I see it. I see it. I see every move that philosophers have tried to make and see them all as futile. And I remember my teacher, David Hamlin, who was a very noted philosopher, editor of Mind, once said to me, I said to him, well, there's so much in the history of philosophy that I'm ignorant of, because I haven't been a very good student. And he was the best student there ever could be. He was an advisor on the Oxford Companion of Philosophy. He knows everything. And he said, well, you can know everything in the history of philosophy. And then you realize that there's every question you could ever think of has been asked. There's nothing to say. And he himself, he made some minor contributions to philosophy, nothing really important. I mean, his biggest contribution was a sense of precision and subtlety, and realizing that so much of what academic philosophers do was beside the point. He got that, and he reconciled himself to the fact that he wasn't going to make any great contributions. And I don't care, I'm not wanting to emulate Descartes or something, or Plato. I couldn't do it anyway. I don't have the intellectual capacity. And even if I did, it wouldn't make a difference. So, at this stage, I really don't care what it would be. But it would have to be one thing, because there are limits to being a dilettante, being interested in, lots of things. Philosophers should know lots of things besides philosophy. That was my motto. And philosophy is for everyone, not just philosophers. That's also true. Philosophy is for you. I'm still recommending philosophy as the best thing that anyone could ever want to do. Which is not to say that you should devote your life to it, because there are other things in life, I'm a fan of love. I think love is great. But, relationships are great. But whatever you throw yourself into, at the end of the day, it's you and the universe. The universe exists for no reason. You exist for no reason. Because whatever reason you gave, it wouldn't be enough. So I'm going to say, firstly, what I need most at this stage is some kind of feedback, and I don't mean praise, I don't mean appreciation. I just mean some kind of consequential ideas that would enable me to move forward. As I said, I would be content with just pursuing one of my interests at this stage for the rest of my life, as long as or short as it may be. I've done my damnedest to find a way forward. And when I can't think of something original, I've got more guitars than I need. I've got more cameras than I need. I've got more writing machines than I could possibly have use for. And of course, that's all just it's what you do when you run out of ideas. You go on eBay or something. I need to somehow get my ideas focused on something that would be worthwhile. And there's a case for saying that what I'm doing is theology, not philosophy. But it's not theology in the sense of knowledge of God. It's not even theology in the sense of the pursuit or of the question of what is God. It's an attitude to the universe. It's realizing the total pointlessness of materialism. It's realizing how completely absurd most human activity is. So you go to the moon, it's just a rock. You go to the other planets. Technology is great. Technological achievements are something to be proud of. But at the end of the day, it's just more of the same. What is the point of this video? Well, as I said, I'm trying to find a way forward. There must be other people who have got to this point, who feel this way. What do? I think that definitely if I came up with an original idea after 50 years of trying, I think it was 1973 or 4 that Zen and the Art came out. How likely it is that at this stage I'm finally going to come up with something original, something that would make a book, a plot, something gripping. I don't know. I'm going to have another go at this cigar, I think, while I think about this question. That's the thing about a good cigar is it will go out, you can relight it, and it will be absolutely fine. No problem at all. So I'm using a torch lighter, and you really need to give it a lot of lighting. It's a better way of lighting a cigar than puffing it. Sorry, you can't see this, can you? Never mind. You just there we go. There are people who do videos reviewing cigars. There it goes again. And one wonders where they get the money to buy all these cigars to review, unless cigar manufacturers actually send them cigars, because, as I said, they're so expensive. I haven't got the taste for it, I haven't got the sophisticated taste to be able to tell the difference between a great cigar and just an acceptable one, or a great whiskey and an acceptable whiskey, They all taste, whiskey just tastes like whiskey to me. I like White and McKay, this one. This is one of the least expensive whiskies in the supermarket, and it's very tasty. It's described as big boned in the reviews, so it's got quite a strong caramelly taste. I guess it's not too sophisticated. Claims to be triple matured. Well, I could make YouTube videos about that, but obviously, for just making YouTube videos for the sake of that is not ultimately satisfying. Can you search for the meaning of life in tobacco? I sometimes get the impression when I'm smoking that I somehow know what the meaning of life is for a brief moment. It's one of the illusions that human beings so easily fall prey to. You're on your way to the death camps, and you get to eat an apple. That was in a movie I saw once. And just for those brief few seconds while you're eating the apple, you feel happy, even though you know you're going to die. Which of course is true of all of us. We're all going to die. Somehow that moment of happiness seems self-justifying. It seems to be enough. So this is about human psychology. We can be satisfied, immensely satisfied by so little for such a brief period of time. And that's a kind of mystery in itself. Something worth pursuing, something that philosophers have pursued, in fact. Why put all this emphasis on reason, on knowledge, on understanding? What does it matter in the end if you don't understand? And there's something immense and sublime about the fact that we don't know. Kant talks about this, the beautiful and the sublime. And the sublime is, the thunderstorm. It's something whose immensity just takes your breath away. And there's a kind of satisfaction in that, in looking at the question and thinking about its sublimity. It's not ultimately satisfying, but at least it's big. It's not small. The universe is not a small... I'm not talking about physical size, because I've said, the physical size of the universe is completely irrelevant. It doesn't make any difference what physical size it is. It's all relative anyway. But is that an answer? To just be full of wonder, as I said in my philosophizer books? The ultimate aim isn't knowledge, it's wonder. That's something human beings understand fairly well. I was watching a really second-rate Netflix spy movie where someone made the point that was it that, or was it anyway? It was an episode of Lucifer. There are people who search for knowledge, and then there's people who search for wonder. So it's a familiar idea that wonder is more, in a way, you don't want to know because you enjoy the wonder. But obviously it's completely vain to deliberately not seek knowledge so that you can experience the wonder, because that's not like genuine wonder, that's just artificial wonder. It's leaving yourself in the dark, not wanting to know how the magic trick works. That was the example, which is why Lucifer prefers not to know how magic tricks work, because he enjoys the wonder. And of course, it's heavy irony. It doesn't work like that. The wonder's got to be genuine. You've got to really, really not know, or be capable of knowing. Or as I said, it's not even knowledge, because whatever answer you gave wouldn't be enough. I could just spend the rest of my life experiencing the wonder, getting up in the morning and wondering at the sunlight coming through the window and the clouds and everything else, the cars outside. What a wonder that is. The noise of cars, the dust that settles everywhere in this room, so fast. And again, there's poetry in that. Jimi Hendrix, in one of his wonderful songs, the ever-falling dust, he calls it, burning the midnight lamp. Just that, the ever-falling dust, is a beautiful poetic image. Obviously people see of dust as something bad. It's annoying, but there's also poetry in it. It's ever falling. Nothing can stop the dust accumulating. If dust is dust, it's got a kind of a necessity of its own. And as I said, everything's got meaning, so dust has meaning. Are you following this? Do you get the point? I mean, I know it's going to sound a bit like rambling, but yeah. Am I going to post this video? I mean, really, it's not necessarily showing philosophy in a particularly good light. But at the same time, I do think I am making a genuine effort. And as I said, I need to do something, because I hate the thought that I'm just going to be spending the rest of my days being a dilettante, trying one thing, trying another thing, never getting any kind of real satisfaction from those things. To wonder at the universe. How can that be a good thing? How can you see that as the ultimate aim of human existence? Or maybe Nietzsche's right. We are just a means to an end. I'm just a means to an end. We think of ourselves as being so precious and so dear, and ends in ourselves, as Kant would say. Human life is an end in itself. Your reason is an end in itself. How much more interesting to be a means rather than an end, to really appreciate the fact that you're a means. After all, someone who's heroic in battle and dies on the battlefield, sacrifices themselves for the greater good, that's considered a great thing. And that's an example of being a means to an end. You only exist to be a target for an enemy bullet. That's the soldier's ultimate duty. Is not to kill. It's to put yourself in the line of fire, to serve a greater good. But the problem with that is, if you haven't guessed it already, there is no greater good. There is nothing worth dying for that somehow, is the meaning of it all. It isn't. It's just more of the same. Whether you live or die, it makes no difference. So, I give full credit to people who are heroic. They die for a cause. And there's nothing to criticize in that. But whatever, if they believe that there really was something worth dying for, that's, in my terms, a kind of illusion. Because any thought that the meaning of life is an illusion. Just as the belief in God is an illusion. I'm not an atheist in the sense that the atheist being someone who's satisfied with the material world and doesn't think that it needs an explanation. I'm not a theist or an atheist. I don't have a philosophy, quote unquote, that answers any question. I just have the question, which is what we get back to. I hope that this video is going to be useful for someone. I don't want to go on any further because it just gets too boring. So let's just end it with the thought that this is still work in progress. I haven't made a decision as to how I'm going to go forward at this point. Maybe the idea of the book will come. Maybe if I think really hard about what is significant in my own life, in the 50 years that I've been doing philosophy, for example, since 1972 when I began as a first-year undergraduate student at Birkbeck College, London. That's a long time. It's a long time to be doing this. And for almost all that time, as I said, I wanted to write the book and I never managed to do it. I've got 19 books on Amazon. Any one of those would be worth reading, I reckon. I'm always happy to get feedback and reviews, of course. Not out of vanity, but just to help me move forward. Biologically, I haven't got, from for my health, etc., I haven't got that much time left. So it kind of doesn't matter. The thought that I'm not going to come up with an answer. I'm not going to come up with, not an answer to the question, just an answer to how to continue my life. It doesn't make any difference. I might as well just continuing being a dilettante. What's so wrong about that? Anyway, I hope this hasn't taken up too much of your time, and thanks for watching. Feedback appreciated. Bye.